Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Stadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Narayanam Gurum Vande Sharanyam Bhakta Bandhavam Gauramanovistam Purnam Radhadasyam Pradayakam Nirupalugacharya Paryam Rupa Manjari Preshtakam Patita Pavana Bandhavam Yogacharya Narayanam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacham Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tuise Namaha Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekara Ismira Hasar Murali Manohara Radhikara Shikamam Kripanide Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Dakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulasi Devyai Priyai Keshavascha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, I would like to begin offering my most humble obeisances to the dust of the lotus feet of Paramaradatam Shri Guru Pada Padma Nittalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Ashtotara Sata Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev, and also to all Sri Rupanava Gauriya Guru Varga, to all Tridandi Sannyasis, Brahmacharis, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and to all the assembled devotees here today, my most respectful obeisances. So by the causeless mercy of Srila Gurudeva and all the Mahabhagavatas Acharyas, we are able to assemble here one more time to continue reading from book Svarupa of the Jiva. Today we are going to hear from Srila Bhakti Pramoda Puri Goswami Maharaj, and also from Srila Bhakti Rakshidhar Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dayita Madhava Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Prajn Keshava Goswami Maharaj. So Srila Bhakti Pramoda Puri Goswami Maharaj, he speaks as follows. Sadhana Bhakti, or regulative practice, is defined by Srila Rupa Goswami. Kriti Sadhya Bhavis Sadhya Bhavasya Sadhanabhida Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya Prakatam Ridi Sadhyata. The purport is that in the infinitesimal living entity there is a portion of the supreme bliss of Lord Shri Krishna, who is compared to the effulgent sun, emitting all these tiny sparks. This inherent bliss had been lost by the bondage of the spirit soul. To cause this original eternal state to manifest is possible. This is the proper objective for the bonded soul, and when this is achieved by means of discipline of senses in devotional practice to the Lord, that process is called sadhana bhakti, or regulated devotional service in practice. This was a purport written in Bhaktisiddha Sar, Essence of Pure Devotion, Raganuga Bhakti. So here we can highlight when Srila Puri Goswami Maharaj, he speaks, this is to cause this original eternal state. He translates as original eternal state to manifest is possible. So again, that same eternal and manifest Svarupa is there, original. Next one. He is able to escape from this abominable material energy only on realization of his innate blissful spiritual identity in relation with transcendence. This is also in Bhaktisiddha Sar, Essence of Pure Devotion, Yogamaya and Mahamaya section. So very clear again, Srila Bhakti Pramoda Puri Maharaj explains that. So again, quote from the same book, in the session of Raganuga Bhakti, he says, in Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami has written to validate this point, Sadhana Bhakti Lahari, confirming that those aspirants greedy for this spontaneous devotion will, in the mood of the residents of Braj, serve Shri Krishna, both in Sadhaka Rup, with their normal practices, by their external physical bodies, and with their original spiritual forms, which are eternal and perfected, or Siddha Svarupa. So again he says that the Siddha Rup, or spiritual body, it is a eternal and perfected spiritual form. Now we are going to read from Srila Bhakti Rakshakshidhara Goswami Maharaj. The self is in a dormant state, but by some external help, it may be reawakened, just as when one is sleeping. By external interference, a man can be roused. It is something like that. Someone is dormant, but when by external help he awakes from his slumber, he again becomes aware of himself. Once he is awakened and his self-awareness has returned, he immediately knows, I was such and such, I am such and such. By the help of our friends, we may recover our health. In the same way, if we continue to apply the process of bhakti, we shall become more and more conscious of ourself and of reality. This is from the book Subjective Evolution, chapter 1. So again, Srila Maharaj is giving the idea that the Svarupa is dormant, is asleep. It's not going to be created or manifested, but it's just going to be awakened. And then it's going to realize, okay, I am such Svarup, I am in this material body, and this process is going on. So this is an eternal consciousness. Next one. So they have got their fixed Svarup. Here he says clearly, they have got their fixed Svarup. Some in Vaikuntha, some in Golok. In Golok also there are 5 rasas. So it is within. If one can see into their deep nature, the Svarupa, that Svarupa may be detected. In germinal form, it is there. This is India, March 3, 1981. So very clear, Srila Maharaj says that that Svarupa is can be detected in a germinal form inside ourselves. Service can construct a beautiful capital, a beautiful country. It is there, and you have only to fill it, enter, and take up your appointed service. You will think, this is my home. This appointment feels very friendly to me. Now I have come home. This is the innate capacity or substance, innate nature, Svarup, which is presently covered by ignorance, by misconception. This is from Golden Staircase, chapter 1. A madman leaving his own sweet home wanders in the street and thinks that it is imperative for him to collect pieces of paper or cloth, as if that were his business. It is absurd. His brain is focused in such a direction that he thinks, it is my duty to collect these pieces of paper and pebbles. In this way, he is going on, But what is the real, innate wealth of his heart? If he could only remember his home, his father, mother, other family members, his sweet, sweet home. It's also from Golden Staircase, chapter 1. So again, Srila Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj in the same picture as all the other acharyas. And now we are going to read from Srila Bhakti Dayita Madhava Goswami Maharaj. I remember an event which took place when I was at the Madras Gauriya Math, where I spent about 10 years of my life. Through the efforts of some God brothers and myself, we were able to build the Madras temple. Ramachandra Ayar, the son of the man who had donated the land for the temple, Sadashiva Ayar, advised us to learn Tamil so that we could preach to the general populace of the city. He even took steps to help us learn. I had been studying Tamil for only 3 days when a telegram came telling me to go to Puri. When I saw Prabhupada, I told him that it would take about 6 months to learn Tamil. And Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna Bhakti is not transmitted by language. Through it, you may be able to transmit learning or scholarship, but that is all. Love for Krishna is communicated by one who possesses love for Krishna. Preach in whatever languages you already know. I don't advise you to lose your valuable time learning other languages. The Math is there for culturing one's inherent love for Krishna. Through such culture, one feels happiness, and he communicates that happiness to others. One who loves Krishna loves every single living being. Devotion to the Lord is awakened by association with saintly devotees. Sangena, sadhu, bhaktanam, ishwararadhena cha. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.7.30. So in this quote, we can see clearly how Srila Maharaj, he is quoting Srila Prabhupada's teachings, that devotion to the Lord is awakened by association with saintly devotees. And that inherent love is present in every single living being. So here it's only one quote from Srila Bhakti Dayita Madhava Goswami Maharaj. And now we are going to read from Srila Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Goswami Maharaj, Param Gurudev. All the following statements are from Acharya Keshwari, his life and teachings, part 4, which is elaborately discussed in chapter 1 of this book. So in the very beginning, we already read about that meeting, that famous meeting held in Shri Keshavji Gauriya Math, Mathura, where Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Rakshadhar Goswami Maharaj and other God brothers, they had the discussion about the Svarupa of the Jiva. So, the Jiva has his own Siddha Svarupa, his inherent name, form and so on, are all eternal. Each of the innumerable individual Jivas has his own separate Svarupa, but the Jiva has forgotten this due to being covered by Maya. There, the Jiva's particular features are not directly manifest in the seed, but still the seedling and the tree with its leaves, branches, fruits, flowers and flavor are present in the seed in an unmanifest form. We never see a deviation from this. In the very same way, everything, the Jiva's constitutional name, form, bodily limbs and nature are present in an unmanifest form within him. So that's only these 2 quotes, because in the first chapter, everything was already presented of what Srila Param Gurudev has told. So here, just in very brief, we have this like a type of resume of what he, the essence of what he spoke in that meeting. So now we are going to hear from Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddha Sarasvati Thakur. As long as the Jiva is not situated in his inherent spiritual form, unwanted things that impede his advancement are inevitable. This is from Shikshastakam verse 5, commentary. Although Bhakti, the eternal propensity of the soul, is present in every living entity's heart, it is impossible for the conditioned souls to realize, just as it is impossible to see one's face in a dusty mirror. In such a state, the eternal propensity of the living entities, service to Krishna, remains dormant. From Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adikanda 7.61, Gaudiya Bhasya commentary. The next one. All those esoteric truths that are revealed solely through one's advancing practice of chanting the holy names are to be considered the introduction to one's Svarupa, one's true spiritual identity. When one becomes free from anarthas, or the unwanted desires of the heart, one's Svarupa manifests. So here clearly he says, when one becomes free from anarthas, or the unwanted desires, one's Svarupa manifests. When one's Svarupa awakens, one's perception is automatically admitted into eternal subject matters. Very clear. This is from the Harmonist, Year 7, Artificial and Genuine Svarupa Siddhi. Next one is a question to Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddha Sarasvati Thakur. I cannot understand this world, so please explain to me. And then Srila Prabhupada answers. It is a camp life. This world is not our original abode. It is meant for certain purposes. After that, we are to proceed to our original home. This world is not a desirable place. It is not good to be enticed to stay here for a long time, forgetting our original abode. We stay there with Godhead. Here we are always liable to be disturbed. By these disturbances, Providence wants to teach us that this world is not our eternal habitation, but that all real peace is to be found in Him. Being thus troubled, we would naturally like to go back to the original place. We should better go back into our own position, to our only friend. He is the only resort of all our needs and desires. But if we take the burden upon ourselves to run into wrong, we run into troubles in the shape of our daily transactions. This external body will be changed, and also our present situations. But we have to guard a transcendental frame. As soon as we will learn that the transcendental frame is working in us, this mortal coil will cease to trouble. This is from the Harmonist, 1935, number 21, Correct Angle of Vision. Next. If one does not realize that he has a spiritual body, then he will remain forgetful of Krishna and consider his material body the self. The absolute truth is beyond material sense perception. Krishna is the master of the senses, and one must serve him with all one's senses. Service to Krishna is rendered through service-inclined senses, spiritualized senses. One revives one's spiritual body only by Guru's mercy. The soul serves the super soul, who is Satchitananda, through its spiritual senses. This is from Gauravani to Shri Radha Govinda Gauriya Math, editorial. So again, in the very beginning he says, if one does not realize he has a spiritual body, he will remain forgetful of Krishna. Means he has a spiritual body. He has already that personality which is about to manifest. we have these quotes from Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddha Sarasvati Thakur here in this book. There is another one which I remember, which is also the purport of that verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Kriti Sadhya Bhave Sadhya Bhava Shasadanabhida. And that's the purport for the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, he says that Nitya Siddha Bhav, it is Nitya Hridaya Birajman, means it is eternal present in the heart. That Bhav means that specific propensity to serve Krishna. It is already manifested in the heart of the Jiva. Now we are going to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is one of the most important ones, because this is from him that most of we have now is coming in relation to the Goswamis. Okay, so we are going to read Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and then stop, and then next lecture, chapter 3, we are going to start from the Goswamis. Very, very powerful statements from the 6 Goswamis. Another as well as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Baladev Jabhusan Prabhu as well. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he starts here with a quote which says, "The spiritual master must exactly explain Sambandha Jnana to the disciple, who in turn must receive it with proper faith. The quintessence of this knowledge is that Lord Krishna is eternally the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Jiva is his eternal servitor, and the Jiva's loving relationship with Krishna is likewise eternal as an inherent trait of his nature." This is from Shri Harinama Chintamani chapter 3. So very clearly Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that Jiva's loving relationship with Krishna is likewise eternal as an inherent trait of his nature. Next. An object is called a vastu, and its eternal nature is known as its nitya dharma, or eternal dharma. Nature arises from the elementary structure of an object, ghatana. By Krishna's desire, when an object is formed, a particular nature is inherent in that structure as an eternal concomitant factor. This nature is the nitya dharma of the object. There are 2 types of vastu, or objects, vastava and avastava. The term truly abiding substance, or vastava vastu, means truly abiding substance, refers to that which is grounded in transcendence. Temporary objects, avastava vastu, are dravya, or solid objects, guna, qualities, and so on. Sri Bhagavan is the only real entity, vastava vastu. The living entity, Jiva, is a distinct and individual part of that entity, while Maya, the potency that produces bewilderment, is the energy of that entity. Therefore, the word vastu refers to 3 fundamental principles: Bhagavan, the Jiva, and Maya. Krishna is the infinite spiritual substance, Brihad Chit Vastu, whereas the Jivas are infinitesimal spiritual substance, Anuchit Vastu. The oneness of Krishna and the Jivas lies in their spiritual nature, but they are undoubtedly different as well, because their natures are complete and incomplete respectively. So here, very clearly, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that the Jiva has their eternal spiritual nature, It means that to be a vastu, to be a type of vastu, Jiva has to have the nitya dharma or eternal function to become an object. There is no object that can exist without having its purpose of existence. For instance, Srila Gurudev he explains that a object needs 4 types of aspects to exist. This is name, form, qualities, and purpose or dharma. Means nama, rupa, guna, dharma. So the jiva exists as a vastu, therefore jiva must have name, form, qualities, and function or purpose. So that has to be a part of its eternal nature. So it means its original name, not called jiva. Jiva is not a name. Jiva is just a term for the general object, but that name of that has to be given the name of the Svarupa and the form of the Svarupa, the qualities of that Svarupa, and the service, the dharma. Here dharma will be applied as a service to Krishna, to a specific type of service it has for Krishna. Right? So in this way, this is established here. Next one. This is a quote from Jaiva Dharma, directly written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Brajanath says, what is the difference between Ishvara and the Jiva? And then Babaji answers, first you should understand the non-difference between Ishvara and the Jiva. And after that I will explain their eternal difference. Means what is similar, he will explain first. So Ishvara is the embodiment of knowledge, Jnana Swarup, the knower, Gyata Swarup, one who considers or reflects, Manta Swarup, and the enjoyer, Bhokta Swarup. He is self-effulgent, Swaprakash, and he also illuminates others, Paraprakash. He has his own desires, Ichamoy. He is the knower of all, means Ketragya. The Jiva too is the form of knowledge, the knower and the enjoyer. He too is self-effulgent, and he illuminates others. And he too has desires, and is the knower of his own field. From this perspective, there is no difference between them. This is Jaiva Dharma chapter 15. Next one. Thinking intelligently, the distinguishing quality of the soul must be the ability to experience bliss. If all the souls are taken from the world becomes blissless. Water, fire, air, ether, and earth never under any condition have bliss. The soul is the abode of bliss in the material world. Previously, it was concluded that the soul is a conscious, knowing substance. But in addition, the soul has the inherent quality of bliss, just as the spiritual body of the soul, by material association, is covered by the subtle and gross bodies. The quality of bliss transforms to subtle and gross states, and ends as distress. Where distress is somewhat reduced, a little temporary happiness is experienced. Happiness and distress are actually transformations of the state of bliss. The soul is knowing spirit and blissful. This is from Chaitanya Shikshamrita chapter 5, part 3. Next one. Brajanath says, Please explain the eternal nature of the Jiva even more clearly. Then Babaji, he says, the Jiva is atomic consciousness and is endowed with the quality of knowledge and is described by the word aham, or I. He is the enjoyer and the thinker and the one who comprehends. The Jiva has an eternal form which is very subtle, just as the different parts of the gross body, the hands, legs, nose, eyes, and so on, combine to manifest a beautiful form when established in their respective places. Similarly, a very beautiful atomic spiritual body is manifest, which is composed of different spiritual parts. However, when the Jiva is entangled in Maya, that spiritual form is covered by two material bodies. One of these is called the subtle body, or Linga Sharir, and the other is called the gross body, Sthula Sharir. Jiva Dharma, chapter 15. So many different qualities of this Svarupa of the Jiva, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing here. That it is the abode of bliss, this is very atomic, beautiful atomic spiritual body, etc. Next one. All divine qualities are eternally present. The individual living entity and Krishna are the same in that they are both inherently conscious. The difference between them is that the aggregate of all divine qualities is eternally present in the living entity only to a minute extent, whereas those divine attributes are present in Krishna to the full extent. Even when the Jiva attains his pure constitutional form, those qualities will only be manifest to a minute degree in his pure Svarupa. When by Krishna's mercy the potencies of cognizance and pleasure, means Chit and Ladini, gradually make their appearance in the heart of the Jiva, he attains a perfect state similar to that of the Supreme Personality. Still, some special qualities remain unique to Sri Krishna Chandra, and he is therefore the worshipable deity for everyone. This is Brahma Samhita, verse 32, Tatparja. Next one, again from Jiva Dharma, chapter 15, the eternal spiritual body of the Jiva. Brajanath asks, what is the difference between the eternal spiritual body and the subtle body? The eternal body is the actual original body, and it is atomic, spiritual and faultless. This is the real object of the ego, the real I. The subtle body arises from contact with matter, and it consists of three vitiated transformations, namely of the mind, intelligence, and ego. So this is the eternal spiritual body. It is the real ego, the real I of the soul. Next. Now, Jiva Dharma chapter 16, Brajanath says, first, please explain to me, if the Jiva is a pure spiritual entity, how did he become entangled in this miserable world? Babaji smiled and said, then he quotes the verse from Dasamula 6. By his original nature, the Jiva is an eternal servant of Krishna. His Svarupa Dharma is service to Krishna. Bhagavan's bewildering energy Maya punishes those Jivas who are bereft of that Svarupa Dharma. Again, he speaks about Svarupa Dharma. These Jivas are diverted from Krishna and are concerned with their own happiness. She binds them in the ropes of the three modes of material nature, Sattva, Raja and Tama, covering their Svarupa with gross and subtle bodies. Throws them into the miserable bondage of karma, thus repeatedly causing them to experience happiness and distress in heaven and hell. So here in the footnote, we have Srila Gurudeva explaining that without intrinsic dharma, nothing can exist. Without the intrinsic dharma of the soul cannot exist. Every question asked by Sriman Mahaprabhu referred to the soul. He never inquired using the words human beings or mankind. For the benefit of the Jivas, Sriman Mahaprabhu asked about the duties pertaining to the intrinsic activity of the Jiva or Svarupa Dharma. Okay. Next one. In the conditioned stage, the Jiva forgets his constitutional identity. As his spiritual intelligence is deluded by the coverings of the subtle and gross bodies. In this stage, the Jiva acquires various material designations. When a mirror is free from dust, it gives a clear reflection of any object. But when it is covered with dust, it does not give a clear reflection. In such a condition, we can say that the mirror has acquired a designation. When something covers the nature or swabhav of any object, then that covering is called the object's designation. Material nature covers the pure constitutional nature of the Jiva, and that covering is the Jiva's designation. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37, Bhayanditya biniveshita syad, shaddapeta savi prayosmriti, tam mayat buddha bhajetam bhakti ekaisham gurudeva tatma. The Jiva's innate tendency of unalloyed devotion towards the Supreme Absolute Truth, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, in his eternal constitutional duty. When, by the influence of Bhagavan's illusory potency, he forgets that the same Jiva becomes opposed to Bhagavan, he is gripped by fear and his intelligence is lost. If he regains intelligence, he will then worship with one-pointed devotion the Lord's empowered representative, Sri Guru. From Bhakti Tattva Vivek, chapter 2. Next one, Dashamula Tattva, chapter 7. It is written in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37, as we just read before that verse. Means that being averse to knowledge of God, the Jiva, becoming absorbed in the second principle, material ignorance, then experienced fear of repeated birth, misidentified himself with the material body, and fell into forgetfulness of his true form. And so now he says true form. The first result of contact with Maya was mistaken identity concerning the Jiva's true form. Forgetting his spiritual form, the Jiva took on a material form, and through his self-identity fell into deep forgetfulness of his role as a servant of the Lord. Maya bestowed two coverings, the gross and the subtle body of the spiritual form. So next one, covering the knowledge of his natural relationship. The Sarvagya Shukta, quoted in Bhagavad Sandarbha, says, Ladniya Sanvida Shrishta Sachidananda Ishwara Swavidya Sambrito Jiva Samklesha Nikara Karaha. The Supreme Lord is full of eternity, knowledge and bliss, being embraced by his energies, Ladini and Samvit. The Jiva's self-knowledge being covered by beginningless ignorance, the Jiva identifies with material suffering. In Paramatma Sandarbha 54.6, Jiva Goswami says that Maya has two propensities, knowledge and ignorance. Knowledge is born of the real mercy of Maya. The ignorance function is the special energy of Maya to punish the Jiva for his offenses. He further says that this ignorance has two functions, called the avaranatmika function and vikshepatmika function. The first function covers the Jiva's knowledge of his intrinsic nature. The second function causes the Jiva's attachment to various forms of illusory knowledge. So very clear here, Srila Jiva Goswami says that the function of Vikshapatmika covers the knowledge of the Jiva's intrinsic nature. Next one. This is from Kalyana Kalpataru, Song 19, verse 2. The soul's original eternal nature is pure love within the innermost core of its spiritually conscious form, and the sole object of repose for that pure love is Lord Hari. Alas, how lamentable it is that this inherent ecstatic love is now lying in a dormant, sleeping state due to the artificial covering of this temporary lust. My dear mind, banishing this lust to a distant place, just to rouse and reawaken your sleeping prema. Very beautiful verse. Next one. Gopala Guru Goswami says, from Jiva Dharma chapter 28, Baba, you have been revolving in the cycle of karma, birth after birth, and thus, because of attachment to worldly sense gratification, your consciousness is made up of two types of impressions, namely, those acquired in previous lives, prakatana, and those acquired in this lifetime, adhunika. During this time, the pure tendency of the heart that was present in the pure existence of your Atma has become distorted. Now, by the influence of the spiritual merits, Sukriti, accumulated in many previous lives, you have attained satsanga in this life. And you are creating samskaras by performing bhajan in this association. When these samskaras dispel the distorted samskaras, your original samskaras will arise. The achintya tattva will manifest within your heart to the degree that these samskaras deepen. This is known as Gadda samskara. So now we have the explanation of the first verse of Shikshastak Chetodarpana Marjanam given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The correct conception of Svarupa Tattva, of the Jiva, has been given in the verse Chetodarpana Marjanam. Srila Jiva Goswami's conclusion on this subject is that when the Supreme Absolute Truth is equipped with the sum total of the Jiva Shakti, his minute expansion is known as a Jiva. Sri Baladeva Vijayabhusan, who compiled the Sri Govinda Bhasya on Vedanta Sutra, is of the same opinion. Ishvara is the supremely conscious being, Vibhu Chaitanya, whereas the Jiva is a minutely conscious being, Anu Chaitanya. Ishvara is eternally radiant with all auspicious and limited transcendental qualities. He has a completely pure ego. He is both the knower and the embodiment of knowledge. Similarly, the Jiva also has his own pure Svarupa. Most of the qualities of Ishvara are also partially present in the Jiva, and he has a pure ego. This great conception is not opposed to logic, for the qualities of the sun are also seen in the atomic particles of sunshine. And similarly, the qualities of the Supreme Truth are also observed to be partially present in the Jivas. But because the living being is averse to the Supreme Controller, his pure Svarupa is concealed by Maya. Conversely, when he becomes inclined towards the Supreme, the curtain of the covering potency Maya is withdrawn, and the Jiva's pure Svarupa and qualities are then uncovered. Immediately thereafter, he has a direct perception of his own Svarupa. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says very clear. Immediately thereafter, he has the direct perception of his own Svarupa. From this conclusion, it is evident that the Jiva is an infinitesimal atomic particle of consciousness. He has an inherent spiritual identity, Chinmaya Svarupa, in which his pure ego, pure consciousness, pure form, method of service, and so on are definitely present. As the sadhaka Jiva goes on hearing and chanting, pure bhakti appears in his heart, and the function of the essence of Ladinian Samvit, known as Bhakti Devi, removes all desires and aspirations except for the service of Bhagavan. After all ignorance is dispelled, the Jiva's gross and subtle body coverings are both destroyed by the Vidya Vritti, the function of the knowledge potency. At once the Jiva's pure, constitutional transcendental body appears. Those who are eligible to taste Madhuras attain the purely spiritual body of a Gopi. Okay? So here then we have this very beautiful description from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur about first verse of Shikshastakam on the Svarupa of the Jivas, how it manifests, how it reveals itself. So we're going to stop here and continue next reading from chapter 3, the Goswami's literature. Okay, so have a very auspicious day. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarvyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.